But when you're working in a growth organization or something that's doing something a bit different, no contract is ever the same, right? You want to make sure you're mitigating as much risk as possible and you're managing the processes as, I suppose, you're standardizing them as much as possible to make it efficient. But actually the content of what's in there is very different depending on what scenario you're going into. So yeah, I'm yet to see one that's kind of like ticked all my boxes, but I definitely think there's potential as like this space matures.
So we're recording this during the effectively the ChatGPT release. And I just wanted to share one thing. I was messing around with it and I asked it to write me a procurement policy, and I set out all the parameters for like spend categories and things like that. It wrote one in like 2 seconds for me, and it was absolutely incredible. It's like a 2-pager, which I thought was quite a sweet spot. I also asked it to make me a contract review process, and it wrote me a 8-step contract review process that pretty much mirrored everything I've ever created. I couldn't get it to do too much more, but maybe that's my limitations with it, and I think over time I'll be able to get a bit more out of it. So I'm excited. I thought that was a really cool one that you picked up on. With Slack, I know you mentioned Slack and giving notifications. Is that something you utilize at Monzo?
It's a huge benefit for us. And I've said it before to like other people, which is, I think when you're looking to deploy tooling into an organization, you really have to think about adoption and like how easy is it going to be for somebody to use. How, I remember giving my mum an iPad and she was like, where's the instruction book? And I was like, it's intuitive. And she's like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, just play with it. And you could see her face dropped. And I was like, oh God, okay, right, I'll show you the basics. But for us at Monzo, like Slack is our native communication tool. And when I say people live in it, they absolutely live and breathe in it. We have so much built into that around incident management, around like contacting certain teams and contacting them in a structured way so that you put all the information into the person responding to it has got as much information as possible. So for me, like any tooling that we try and introduce, my default response is, okay, like, is there any way that we can do this with Slack or with an integration with Slack? Because the more I keep it looking natural and native to Monzo and our staff, the higher the adoption rate is going to be, the less I have to train somebody, and the less, I think you've got a fear factor, right? The moment you take them out into a new system, have I done something right? Have I done something wrong? Like, when do I get an update? And because of like everybody working in Slack all of the time, they know when it's been logged, and we're very transparent at Monzo. So most of our channels are open. The other thing that gives you is a complete history of what's been done from start to finish. So you have to have good practices around making sure that content communications are either held within one channel, or if you've gone to another channel because maybe there's a big project that's running that can't be kind of run in one thread, that you make sure you link out. So if anyone goes back to that at a later date, they can follow the trail of everything that's happened. It has saved my bacon on many times, and especially having done almost 5 years, I can still remember, like I can search people's names and I'll be like, I know who worked on that, and I will guess words to try and find stuff if I can't find it logged anywhere else. So yeah, I think for me, that means our adoption rate should be much better than using a different product where you take people out of the comfort zone and make them feel like they're doing something different.